Hi, it's Isaac from Turn Sounds. Chickens make great friends.
Welcome to Just Keep Walking. We're a podcast focused on the Walking Dead TV show. Today we're joined by a very, very special guest who we're very excited to be talking to. But first, let me introduce ourselves. My name is Ben. I'm your host. I'm joined by
Isaac, happy to be here.
And Liam, extremely excited. This is great.
Very exciting. And our guest today is Laura Belsey. Now, she is a director. She's a woman of many talents. She's done so many things over the years. Been involved in a lot of different TV shows and even martial arts and things like that. So very, very talented woman. But some of the shows you might know her from include things like New Amsterdam, Arrow, and a lot of that DC stuff. So there's obviously a long list as well. But for Walking Dead, she's someone who's had quite a lot of influence recently as far as directing episodes goes. So she's done episode 915, which you'll know as the infamous Pikes episode, which is a massive one, of course. 2 episodes in season 10 and some of the upcoming episodes, which we're yet to see, but very excited about. So yeah, welcome Laura. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Fantastic. Well, just to sort of break the ice, kick us off, I'd love to hear about any, maybe like a standout scene for you that was fun to work on for Walking Dead. Is there anything that comes to mind off the top of your head?
Oh my, so many scenes. Walking Dead is one of my favorite shows ever to walk on because there practically is not a scene that isn't a favorite scene to work on. And that's rare, you know. Like you said, I mean, definitely Heads on Sticks or the Heads on Pikes was a very, very intense episode through and through. And it was all about building tension leading to that moment. And the actual shooting of the Heads on Sticks, as we call it, or Heads on Pikes,
Sure.
was, of course, a really, really, really intense day. And definitely a highlight for me. You know, I like to draw inspiration from the comic because I'm a huge fan and the imagery in it is so powerful. So my goal is to be loyal to the imagery, but also bring motion to it and emotion because those are still images. And I feel like I'm very proud of that scene in particular because I felt like I was able to put a little bit of myself in, but also really drawing from the source material. Needless to say, it was an intense day. I mean, for the actors, nonetheless, having to witness that and feel that and be there. There's some very funny pictures of us afterwards where, you know, you have Tara in her walker makeup smiling.
Absolutely. And that's, you should definitely be proud of that scene. Well, really the whole episode, of course, as a whole. That I should have said before is my favorite episode of the whole show. So yeah, really well done with that. It's just one of those things where you watch it and that's one of those moments that really sticks with you. So yeah, amazing job with that. Do you want to jump in?
I was just saying, no pun intended, sticks.
Oh, sticks, yeah, okay.
It does stick with you. I mean, that's the thing about that episode in particular. Like, I couldn't get it out of my head. Like, I for weeks after I shot it, and then I was editing it, and I'd be walking down the street, and I'd still be thinking about it all the time. It just stuck with me. It was so deep inside me. I couldn't shake it for the longest time.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a really rare thing.
Interesting.
But I have to say these new episodes that I can't talk too much about because I don't want to like misspeak and like let a spoiler out that I'm not supposed to. But these new 3 episodes, we call them the COVID 6. I was really fortunate. They wrote 6 episodes specifically for this very interesting time that we're living in, because season 11 was a little too big to attack under, you know, with just everybody wrapping their head about this new way of working, how to work safely. And so they wrote these 6 episodes specifically to kind of be like a half season, an in-between season. It's like, is it season 10? Is it season 11 prequel? It's kind of somewhere in between. And I was fortunate enough to do half of them. And I have to say, I can't wait for those to come out into the world because they are very, very, very special. I think the fact that there were restrictions made the episodes better because we were able to dig deeper because we didn't have
Okay, interesting.
a huge scope. We couldn't have like hundreds of walkers the way we did at the end of season 10, where we had these scenes where we had hundreds of walkers and everybody was shoulder to shoulder. And when I was directing like the end of season, the tower, the penultimate episode of season 10, I was like, everybody squished together, be closer, was what I kept on saying. You can't say that under COVID.
Yeah.
So we didn't have those, but what it allowed the writers to do and the actors and myself to do was to dig deeper. Instead of go broader, we dug down deeper, and we could really, really go into the character psychology and really get to know these characters in a very deep and intimate way.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I mean, we're definitely excited to see those from the previews and things that have been put out. They look like they're just, really well shot and everything. Obviously, you can only tell so much from a trailer, but they look very good. So, yeah, we're very excited to see those. But I'd love to hear a bit more about what you were saying with regards to shooting with restrictions. Again, obviously, without revealing any spoilers or anything about the episode, what did that look like, or what was that like for you working, with some of these social distancing things and all that in place?
It was challenging, but in ways that were unexpected. First of all, the show is incredibly well run and really well produced, and it was an incredibly safe set. Like the safety precautions that our producer Joe and AMC took were extraordinary. So I felt very safe going to work. So that was really terrific. They really thought it through very well. But still, it's a drag because I spent 10 weeks with that crew, and honestly, you get very close on the set. I mean, the close isn't emotionally close,
Sure.
but if I saw most of those people walking down the street, I would not recognize them, because when you don't see somebody's face,
Interesting.
the mask really hides 3/4 of the face,
Yeah.
and we had to wear safety glasses too. So I literally would not be able to recognize any of the crew members
Wow.
if I saw them maskless. And every once in a while, you'd catch a glimpse of somebody taking a sip of water, and you'd see their mouth, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that your mouth was like that. That is so weird." Because it's like, when you read a novel and you imagine the characters, you kind of see them in your head. It's the same thing with working with people with masks day in and day out. You imagine the part of their face that you don't see. Your brain actually fills in
Right.
what you don't see, and you have a totally different idea of who they really are, what they look like. So anyway, that was just not really relevant to The Walking Dead, but
No,
just in terms of working under COVID, that was the biggest shocker, was just how much your brain imagines faces, even if it's not the actual face.
Yeah, fascinating. Hey, and you were saying a bit about how that you had to get a bit more creative and stuff like that with all these things in place. Again, without specifics of scenes and things like that, could you share a little bit about how, as a director, you were sort of pushed to come up with new creative approaches to things, or did that affect you creatively working around these restrictions?
It did, and in a weird way, I don't want to say enjoy the restrictions, but it does force you to think about what really matters. So, for example, we did not have the ability to go out and go to all sorts of locations. We stayed very close to the studio, and thank goodness the studio is surrounded by a lot of woods. But we had to take kind of what existed there and turn it into what we needed. So, because we couldn't go out and just, travel and go out and have the whole team go to some location, because we wanted to stay close together, especially since we were doing all 6 episodes at once. I was doing 3,
Right.
and at the same time, David Boyd was doing 3, not consecutively, concurrently. And we had to be all kind of in studio or right close to the studio. But the 2 teams, Alpha and Beta units, could not mix or even see each other ever.
Wow.
Except for I would see them every once in a while, because I had the great fortune of living in Alexandria,
Okay. Nice.
which was a hoot, because I'd wake up in the morning, and it was great when we were shooting in Alexandria, because it was the best commute in the universe. Like
That's
I would walk
amazing.
down my front stoops and I was on set. So I got a lot of sleep. It was like literally the 10-second commute.
That's
But every once in a while, the other team would be shooting. And so I'd be like
Oh,
behind my mask,
okay.
waving at them, saying, I know I'm not really supposed to see you because you're the other unit. But hi, have a good shoot day.
Yeah.
And I would like watch them from my window. It's a little odd in the morning to wake up and see grips outside your window while you're having coffee, and you kind of somehow feel like, am I late? Because it's just very odd.
Right.
But it was wonderful. I was literally living on set.
That sounds really fun. Hey?
And it was an experience like none other. It was fantastic. So that was a great restriction.
Yeah, not bad at all. Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So just diving into a bit of your production or process rather is the word I was looking for when it comes to approaching an episode of Walking Dead. What does your pre-production process usually look like from the moment or the start when you get the script? How do you then take that and prepare for directing an episode and deciding how you want to approach it?
Yeah, and what's interesting is normally under normal circumstances, we only have 7 days to prep an episode.
Okay.
So I literally don't see the script until 7 days before we start shooting sometimes, as happened with,
Wow.
915, the calm
That's
before.
crazy.
I literally, first day, I got the script and read the script. And most of my ideas from that episode happened, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of them from that first read. Just like you start seeing things. You start seeing that scene with the fair. And I realized right away that because the episode was all about people being connected before literally being disconnected, literally head cut off.
Literally.
But I wanted to create a sense of connectedness because it's like the fair, all the communities are coming together. So I designed a shot. I thought, I always want the shots to kind of tell the story. So I designed that shot. I don't know if you remember where the camera starts high on a crane. It comes down and then the camera pulls back with all these characters and we do handoffs from, one character to the other without a single cut until we see Daryl on the motorcycle. So it's this long oneer where there's literally no cut because the camera is basically telling the story of connection. A cut is a disconnection. So I didn't want to cut until it matters. And oftentimes that's what I do when I look at a script. I think about the editing and I think, where does the cut need to happen? Because by not cutting, you create tension. And that's just something that I just do as I look at a script. I go, oh, I don't want to cut now. I don't want to cut now. Let's find a way to have a really interesting single oneer until now there's a disruption, that now there's a disconnect. It's either an emotional or psychological or story disconnect that then you want to cut. And some scenes are by design want to be cutty. You want that rhythm. You want it to be about the rhythm. Some scenes you want it to be about flow. And as I go through the script, I kind of feel it almost like a musical piece. Where does it want to flow? Where does it want to be quiet so that the next scene will be very jagged and loud? So I kind of try and think of it like the whole picture as one big piece, and how the different sections and the different scenes fit into each other and butt up against each other so that they can push each other, enhance each other. So that's kind of part of the design component that I always enjoy doing.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, that one in 915, like, not only is it technically amazing, you look at it and go like, you see it start off coming from the sky essentially, and then it's like following the characters really close. So amazing from that point of view. But from a creative standpoint, it really does achieve that, that unity that you're talking about, where you're not just seeing cut to this character, and they kind of feel separate. You're seeing everyone in the same place together, walking past each other, and feel the community. So yeah, really well done with that one. But Liam, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, thank you. The oneers are extremely impressive that you've done, and I'm curious to know, like, how much time do you set aside for the oneers that you've done? Well, I suppose in general, all of them.
They're really, really fun to do. But the important thing is planning and knowing very early. Like I said, that oneer came to me the first time I read it, the first day of prep, so that when we went to the fair had not been built yet. And so I went there with the DP and the production designer, and we literally read the dialogue to say, okay, this person's stall needs to be here, and we mapped it out physically in 3 dimensions so that then they could build a set around the shot. And the same thing happened in 10:15, the tower. There's a scene where with the windmill where you see Beta, and we see over Beta, we see the crowd of walkers. We come around, we see Beta, and then we push past them, and we see Aaron and Kaylin up in the up in the window, and then we go inside the window with them. So that was another instance where I wanted to create tension by not cutting. Yeah. So I thought of that scene very early on and was able to bring the team along and said, okay, how do we do this technically? Because it was actually very, very challenging to do technically. Right. And the hardest part was, because you start high, you come around, you can't see the body of the crane when you come around, and then you push past. The timing's really tricky. And then to get the camera inside, we had this rig, I think it was a Ronin, where we unhooked the camera and then it went handheld inside and then was operated. Like 8 people had to operate the camera to do that single shot. And then the tricky thing was that the window in the windmill was 1 inch too small for the camera and the rig to fit through.
Oh no, okay.
So the producer was fantastic. He so had my back. He was just like, so what they did, and if you ever go and see the window and go to Alexandria, you'll notice one of the windows in Alexandria is a little bigger because they went back in there and he sent a whole construction crew that weekend. I remember having my coffee at the cafe in Sonoya going, I'm hearing construction. And I looked over and I saw a whole team of people. They were basically opening up. They redid the window of the windmill to open it up on like an inch and a half so that the camera could fit through for that shot. So it takes a lot of planning and and it takes the whole team. And I think that's partly why I love these oneers so much, because it's like a big dance, a big big ballet that every single crew person, I mean, the sound department, it's really complicated for them. How do you put the microphone? How do you boom it? It's for the actors. They're basically doing the in-camera editing for you. So they're timing. So it's like, okay, no, take a little bit less there and there, just so the camera has time to get around. Just take a breath there so we have time to come around. And then when you feel the camera there, then do that line. And so it's like this really focused, concentrated dance that every single person on the crew has to be engaged 100%. It's a real team effort, and it's extremely exhilarating because when it works, everybody just knows it, and everybody's just there's this great sense of accomplishment. And at the end of the day, it's all about the story because you're telling the story.
Oh man, yeah, everyone working too. Not only that one, I thought when you said 10:15, I thought you were talking about the one inside the hospital tower where all the characters are moving around.
Too.
So you've got like
not
just that one, you've got another one. So man, amazing job with those. Hey, but yeah, Isaac,
regarding that scene that you just brought up, that was a particular favorite of mine in that episode, and I did kind of wonder how much of that was maybe artificially inserted. Like, I didn't actually think that you could have gone inside the window there. I thought, oh, surely it had to be like a CG wall or something that we didn't just quite see. But regarding massive creative visions for shots like that, who do you get pushback from the most as far as like, you've got this great idea. Do you collaborate with the producer or director of photography? How does that happen? How does that get realized?
Well, like I said, like The Walking Dead, one of the reasons I love working on the show so much is that everybody's committed creatively. Like I got zero pushback from the producer.
Awesome.
Here's a producer. It's like the best kind of producer where, they'll challenge you and force you to, again, they're not like, Joe and Capero. They're not, he's not like a doormat says whatever you want and just open your wallet. The budget is limited, but it's like when he knows that it's the best thing for the show, he'll like have my back. So yes, it's a combination. Again, everybody's involved. The first person you talk to is of course the DP, and that's when you start doing the math and then the DP has to talk to the grips, and then not one single person has all the answers because it's a big giant math problem, like figuring out that the window was just an inch and a half too small. That involved, again, every single department gets involved in these shots because they're it's like the carpenters have to figure out a way to like tear apart the windmill in a short amount of time, and how big of a team do they need to like accomplish that in the amount of time that they have, and scheduling wise. And the ads who coordinate the background, that's also part of the dance, so they have to like, everybody brings their best game in those situations.
Very good.
It's really a group effort.
Amazing. Hey, Liam, go for it.
I sort of, along the same sort of train of thought to a degree, but you mentioned how there's no pushback, and that everyone's just great to work with. We've spoken to a few people from the crew from The Walking Dead, and the theme that consistently keeps coming up is family. It feels like a family environment.
Yes, it is a family. It really, really is. I mean, some of these people have been together for practically 11 years. So it's a phenomenal crew, phenomenal team.
Fantastic. Again, like Liam said, that's the sort of thing that we hear time and time again. Everyone just says, oh, everyone's great to work with. It's just this collaborative family. So yeah, amazing. That's what you want. Okay, so diving into something a little more specific. One, obviously we love all the characters, but one fan favorite that we're all a big fan of is Connie.
Yeah.
Just such a good character. Could you tell us a little bit of what it's like working with Lauren Ridloff as the actress? So she's a deaf actor, of course, and does an amazing job with all her scenes, really. But as a director, how do you approach that differently, working with an interpreter, and just what's she like to work with in general?
Oh, she's amazing. She's magical. She just lights up the screen. Love her, love her, love her. There's certain protocols we have in place. We have you need two interpreters, because you need somebody interpreting for them and also somebody interpreting for me. So it's really important to not be looking at the interpreter when you're talking, like making eye contact. It really makes me want to use sign language. You find yourself, it's such a beautiful thing, and it actually makes me want to learn sign language, because you want to use your hands to express things, and when they answer, you go, oh yeah, that's perfect, like whatever that gesture is. So you find yourself making up gestures all the time. I speak a lot with my hands, which if you're viewing this, you can see that, but if you're just hearing it, you're getting like 20% less of the story, because there's always like my hands do a lot of the talking. She's wonderful. That's all I can say. Her eyes, I mean, she's so expressive and lovely.
Oh, that's really good to hear. And so another character who you had the opportunity to essentially introduce was Princess. We're all big Princess fans as well, obviously. But how does that, from a directing standpoint, do you approach that differently when it comes to introducing a new character who's not pre-established on the show, as opposed to working with actors who have been on the show for years and really know their character? Is that different from your directing standpoint?
Well, I think that Paola is like the Princess, so perfectly cast. Honestly, it makes my job a lot easier, because she kind of, if you saw her audition tape was 100% her, like the character. Like she understands the character so well. And so I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to do one of these 6 COVID episodes is primarily focused on her. So I had the opportunity to work with her a lot. So it was fun, because I kind of got to introduce her, and then I got to do this special episode with her. And again, she's kind of magical, and her depth of understanding of the character. We spoke a lot beforehand, because this episode was basically about her. You're going to find out a lot about her. And she just knows this character. So it's almost as if she's been playing this character for 10 years. She is not the character.
Wow.
Paola in life is different, but she says that Princess reminds her of who she was 10 years ago, or who she was young, so pieces of herself so there's a truthfulness to her performance, because she's so connected to the character.
Amazing. Hey.
Just understands her. So it's really just fun. And I don't want to say easy, because it's not easy, but it's it isn't that different working with her than with somebody who's been playing the same character for 10 years, because she has such a deep understanding of Princess.
Okay. That's really good, hey? And yeah, I mean, it comes across, it feels natural. She doesn't feel like she's trying to force herself into this character. You just see the character of Princess and she's there. So,
yeah, which is tricky because Princess is such an over-the-top character, but she pulls it off because she's so real. So she can be that heightened kind of pink-jacketed, wild-haired, crazy, over-the-top character. But it does, and in theory, that seems almost like out of context with The Walking Dead, because she's kind of comical, and like Walking Dead, she adds so much humor to the show that is not necessarily usually very humorous, but she's so real that it works. You know, even the fact that she's wearing this outrageous magenta jacket, the jacket almost becomes a character in the show. And it's such a color, and that color is a color that does not exist in that show otherwise.
Sure,
it's a show that has very few colors. And yet, because it's so specific, it works. You know? Because it doesn't try to be The Walking Dead. It's Princess. And she's just real. Yeah, it's doing its thing. She's doing her thing. And I think that one of the reasons this show is so incredibly successful is it just taps into certain truths about humanity. And as long as it remains truthful, even if it's as over the top as Princess is, because she's so truthful, it's The Walking Dead.
Yeah. I love that. Hey, that's really good. I'm going to use that more often. You actually, Azza, you had a question regarding like actors and characters and
Great
stuff like
segue. Thank you. Princess is actually a great example of this. The actress that plays her. Sorry, I've already.
Paola, yeah.
Paola.
We know that, like, you know, the Dan Foglers of the world and the Jeffrey Dean Morgans of the world, like, they're these big, bright personalities, and you know, we've seen them joke around on and off set. You know, it's just kind of how their personalities are. I'd be very interested to find out if there are any characters like that play, you know, the Kellys or the Father Gabriels of the world, bit more reserved characters on screen that actually have very light up personalities in real life. Are there any sort of actors that you've worked with on the set there that you could list off that fit that description?
Yes, Father Gabriel. In real life, he's much more jovial. He loves to sing. Actually, he has the most beautiful voice, and he sings, and he's quite different. But he also really understands his character. And again, I was so lucky to do this episode One More, which is right up there in terms of my favorite episodes ever. It's can't wait for the world to see it. It's really, really good, and he's amazing in it. So no spoiler alerts, but watch that episode, because he's great. But in real life, he's a lot funnier.
Right, yeah.
And less heavy. He loves to sing.
That's awesome. We definitely got to get some outtakes on the Blu-ray one day of him singing. That's the dream. That AMC, if you're listening, that's what we're after. So actually, one more thing I wanted to ask regarding the new episodes that we obviously haven't seen yet. So Dwayne, who's the DOP, I believe, for a lot of the episodes, has talked a bit about how they've shifted to filming on digital instead of filming on actual film like they used to. Has that affected your job at all as far as directing and how long you can film for, or has that not really affected you too much?
It has. And, you know, it's funny because I'm old school. I love film. And I love the fact that the show was shot on film, because it gave it part of that gritty, wonderful, unique look. And I love DC. He shot the other 3 episodes this time. I worked with Scott Keevan, who's new as a DP.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was very sad about film, but I have to say that the show looks beautiful now. It looks beautiful. Like, it's gorgeous. And so it's still 100% the show, and there's no drop off in terms of mood or texture or quality. It's just different. It is easier in a way, because yes, you can do longer takes. You don't have to cut, though I usually like to cut because that's kind of, again, part of the culture of the show. Yeah. The biggest difference is that In the past, the video taps, because so few people shoot on film, the technology on film was getting worse and worse and worse. And like on set, I have my monitors where I'm seeing the picture,
Okay.
but the video taps from film were terrible. Like you could
Right.
sometimes see nothing. It would be like so fuzzy, and it would go in and out. And so, for example, that shot I was describing about in the windmill, where we're over beta, we see the crowd over
Yeah.
beta, we turn around and we go through the window and we do the crane handoff. When we did that scene, DC shot that, and he was also operating the wheels because on the Ronin.
Right.
There were times in the take that we thought was the best take where the video tap went black.
Oh, no.
And he was, imagine operating one of the most complex shots with your eyes closed, and he was doing it by memory
What?
because
Wow.
there was no picture, and we didn't know. We thought that was the best take, but we didn't know if it was the best take.
Oh, wow.
That was when we were still shooting film.
Far out.
And so there were definitely times where you were blind. There were
Okay.
times where the quality of the picture on the video tap was so poor that I would have to ask the operator. Like there was a scene where Samantha Morton, where she cries. I don't know if you remember, she has that
Yeah.
one tear,
Yeah.
and we're like this close. It's a screamer. It's like, eyebrow to, and it was so fuzzy that I couldn't even see if there was a tear there. I had to go to
Oh,
the
no.
operator and say, "Was there a tear?" Because it looked like there was a tear, but I'm not sure if I could see it. He's like, "Yes."
Right.
So it was like old school. Back in the old days, they didn't even have video taps. You would had to rely on your operator to see, did you have it? And they would have to say yes. So, so in a way, it was a relief. We had to do that so that LA could see the shots, because there's no way they could be looking at
Sure.
snow basically on the West Coast to be able to see what was going on. So in a weird way, it was a relief to be able to see at least what we were doing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And not just rely on faith.
Oh, wow.
There was something kind of beautiful about just having that faith and not being so controlling and going, okay, let go.
Yeah.
And the results were actually pretty great. So it's like, okay, I don't have to be hyper controlling all the time.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's good. One thing out of curiosity, did that take then the windmill one with Aaron and all that? Did you end up using that take where it cut out? Was that the
It
one?
was the best
Wow.
take.
Okay.
He did a brilliant job operating, and it was right at the most difficult moment to operate when the camera went through the window and was handed off to the crew inside, waiting to
Sure.
get it. And so that was usually the sticky point. That was the bumpiest, and that's when the video tap went down, and that was what we didn't see, and that was the best take.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah. No,
So
wow.
yeah, a lot of faith. It was like we were all like, I don't know, I think we got it.
Yeah, nicely done. Hey.
Yeah, we did 2 more takes after that, I think.
Okay.
But that was the take. That was the best one.
That was the best one, right? Okay. Yeah. Wow. Good to know. Hey. Looking at the Pikes, so this is your first episode that you directed for Walking Dead. Major episode. Well, first of all, this is kind of a 2-part question. First of all, how did you feel about getting that, coming on to such a pivotal scene? And again, you did it so well. So kudos for that. But regarding that actual scene of the Pikes, did you have any sort of alternate approaches you were looking at for how to film that scene, or was that mostly set in stone from the script? How did you choose for how you wanted to approach the revealing of the Pike victims?
Well, first of all, it was a massive responsibility. It's kind of when I got the script, I was like, oh my God. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. I was like, oh wow, this is big. This is a huge responsibility. I think that what was fun to do was very obvious right at the top, like when we went to see the locations, and again, drawing inspiration from the comic, was to not reveal right away what we were seeing. Like what you don't see in film or TV or, is as important as what you do see. So it was all about delaying the reveal.
Right.
So in the editing, you see, you see them react to something. He's pointing up the hill. Remember the team when they come to our and so then they go up the hill, and as they go up the hill, we pull back with them, and then we see the Pikes kind of right over the edge, but they look like the lollipops in the distance. It's not clear what they are. And I have like pictures. Hold on, because I take a lot of pictures when I.
Yeah,
Oh, this is a
sure.
podcast, so I can't really show these.
Oh, that's
But
all right.
but you can see pictures. I can describe them to you because I take a lot of pictures that when I prep. But you guys can see. So when we designed
Okay.
where to put the pikes, you can see like that was when we were location scouting. That's the crew on the horizon scouting. So it was like we spread everybody out and then back down so that we had that moment of just the tips of the heads coming over the crest. You know, you see Daryl coming over the crest. It's all about building that tension.
Right.
So part of my process is, here you see more pictures. Sorry, this is the picture that there's the writer there, the assistant director, the production designer, and the DP. I usually take pictures of the entire show before I shoot it. I shoot it in Artemis, and I have everybody act out all the parts.
Nice.
So there's like an alternative version of the entire show with different people acting out the parts and the final people, which is always very funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
wow.
here again, you have the production designer where Daryl is and the grasses when he meets it. It's like everybody's playing all the parts.
That's
So
amazing.
we have so that's kind of part of the
So is that
process.
essentially instead of storyboarding for pre-production?
Yeah. So basically it is it's kind of like storyboarding, and then I shot list just to write it all down. So then on the day I get the joy of crossing shots off
Nice.
on my iPad.
Oh, fantastic. No,
I'm
don't
entirely
know.
paperless, so yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, no, the iPads are so handy. Hey, you can just have it all.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and what it's also great is that I always carry with me visual references from the comic itself. So they can always pop up. So this is like a typical page where I have my shot list, I have pictures I take, and then shots from the comic to refer to. So on set, I can say, no, the camera should be a bit lower. See, let's look at this shot here. This is let's be a little lower and see how she's holding the knife. Let's like hold the knife like that.
Yeah, okay.
And some actors like that. Some actors refuse to see pictures. Like Samantha Morton was like, no, I don't want to see any pictures. I was like, okay.
Okay, yeah. Man, I don't know what AMC's rules are, but if you're ever able to release those, that would be fascinating to look through, see how those shots are planned out. But yeah, man, all of that stuff is just so fascinating to me. I really enjoy seeing how, this is how this shot came into being. So that's really cool to see that you've, just gone with other crew members and just block those out, and you can see, that's where that happened. Very nice.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more efficient during the day because you've already like when I take my pictures, I'm like 27, 35, 40 millimeters.
Okay.
I kind of have that conversation in my head, and then when I shot list, I review the pictures, and I can take that time. I can take my time. I can be like, do I like the 27 millimeter or do I like 40? 27, 40. Do I need both? Do I that so that on the day when you're hitting the ground on set, it's kind of like you're in the midst of battle. You don't want to be on set with like 100 people around going,
Sure.
do I like that or do I like that? Do I like that? Do I like that? It's like, no, the decision's already been made. And it's not always paint by numbers. Sometimes there's always flexibility in it, but a lot of the thinking's been done before. So it's like, okay, 40 millimeter, this is where we want to be. This is how it works.
Nice.
And you can just get a lot done.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's only so many hours of the day. The biggest challenge in all these things, like the biggest challenge on the Heads on Sticks shoot day, was the sun, the light. We are constantly battling with the sun. Time is the biggest challenge always. And these are things we can't control. You cannot control the sun. And that's your biggest, that's what you're up against. It's you versus the sun. And tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. You want that shot? You got to make sure that you're not wasting time at the beginning of the day, because by the end of the day, you will not have sun and you can't come back. You only have that hill once, and that's it.
Wow.
Now that's really awesome to hear about all of the pre-planning that you do before that, especially with regard to your crew. I think having that put together plan of this is what we're going to do and maximize the use of the day so that we waste absolutely no time. Like I know we've spoken to other people in the show when time is money, essentially. And I quite often think back to the early Charlie Chaplin days when he'd just kind of sit on set with his arms crossed just until inspiration would come to him, and like the crew would just be standing around there going, okay, anytime, anytime. So how far you've come, like, yeah, as an industry, that's great.
Oh, that's awesome, hey? So, well, actually, this somewhat ties in. This is a little bit off topic, but something very specific. A classic line, which is pretty infamous now, is in season 10, episode 5, when you've got Brandon doing the damn classic Negan. Just out of curiosity, was that like a one-take wonder, or did you do a few different versions of that? How did that pan out, if you can remember?
I think we did a couple takes. That kid was great. He nailed it. He so was the character. He was so annoying. He annoyed Jeffrey like crazy.
Really?
So Jeffrey's very method that way, and he gets all worked up. So like this kid was like the kid in character, and he's not really like that in real life. But whenever he was around there, he was just like, you know, it was kind of perfect, and he was like really kind of irritating. But then the second we were done, Jeffrey was like so sweet to him and everything. It was almost like an act. Like he was there during the whole shoot. He's like, God, that kid's annoying. God, that kid's annoying. And then after he's like, great job, man. You were fantastic. That was wonderful. You know, Jeffrey's like that. Jeffrey's really again, I had the huge privilege of doing Here's Negan, which is going to be an amazing episode. That's going to be a classic. So yes, super fun working with Jeffrey. Talking about a talent. This guy, and talking about classic Negan, for him to be able to. I mean, you've seen the trailer, so I'm not revealing too much. You see different Negans and you've seen the little pig. For him to go back and be old Negan for just a tiny window was really juicy for him. He hadn't been that Negan in a long time. He's like, damn, that was fun.
Yeah. And I believe you got
Negan is a little more complex,
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, okay.
I got to what?
Work with Hillary as well, his wife, as Lucille. Again, no spoilers, but what were they like to work with?
It's great. I mean, again, talk about COVID restrictions. That's kind of one of the most beautiful things of like the quote COVID restrictions. It's like, if you're going to have somebody play his wife, who's like, she was perfect. Like you could not have better casting. And at the same time, if they're like intimate, so you don't have to worry about, you know, the COVID of it all. It's like their husband and wife. So yeah, they can snuggle and we don't have to worry so much. They were great together. They were fantastic together.
Well, yeah, very much looking forward to seeing that and and how that plays out. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a little sequence that I'm not going to tell you about, but there are a few little things that were improvised on set that came out great.
Sweet.
With them.
Awesome.
It was just like kind of like, hey, let's just try this. So you'll see.
Nice. All right, we'll have to keep an eye out. That sounds cool.
Just really quickly, because I am such a fan of Wonders, and I didn't even know that they were really called that before now. How do you feel about movies that make that their whole goal, like Birdman or 1917? Do you feel like it has a place in storytelling in those sorts of movies? Have you seen them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love those movies.
Great.
You know, and Children of Men also has like great wonders. Yeah. I feel like wonders are great when they're to serve the story and to create tension. Yeah. And I think those examples, you know, totally are about that. You know, it isn't just about, oh, let me show off what a cool filmmaker I am. It's like more like, what's the best way to tell this story? And, you know, like in all those stories, I think what a great wonder does is it pulls you into the experience and doesn't give you the relief of cutting.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, so it's like you can't escape. You're in it with the characters in real time, and it's a fabulous way of creating tension and emotion. That's what I like about them. Not to mention that they're fun visually. When they work well. I mean, that's the key, is to keep them from being boring. It's like it is a dance. It's a dance, because what you're doing is you're doing in-camera editing. I did another one also at the end of 105 with Negan, where he's beating up the walkers, and then when Beta takes him at the very end of the episode,
right,
he's in the woods, and and again, I didn't cut. He comes out with the bat. It's very dark. He comes out, and then we reveal all the walkers and the whisperers, and then he swings one, and then we turn, and there's another, and there are no cuts in there either. And I kept on saying to the operator Juan, who's a brilliant Steadicam operator, who I consider a real collaborator. He's great because he'll make some suggestions, because it is such a dance. I was like, you're my editor right now, so just make sure that I get a close up here, a wide shot here. You're basically doing in-camera editing. The timing is like that, and that's why for actors, it's like you can't have any of those moments that you typically cut out of editing. You have to be really, really tight and precise.
Absolutely.
You can't have any of that fumbly. You can't have, as we call the technical term is shoe leather. When nothing happens, it's just people walking. We call that shoe leather.
Yeah.
So it is. It's like, it's the word. So it's like, oh no, you can't have any shoe leather. Every frame, every second of that has to count, and that's part of what's so fun about it.
Fascinating. Hey, and that one as well, definitely, again, it stands out as, okay, that really did contribute to the feeling of the scene and what you need to feel, because you've got walkers and you kind of don't know if there's whisperers in there or what's going on. And so if it was just cutting, it might feel cheap that, okay, now just a whisper has appeared out of nowhere. But because you've got your eyes on everything, and then suddenly Beta jumps out of nowhere.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not, it feels less manipulated. It feels more real. And what was hilarious about that, if you actually saw us shooting that, because there's a whole team, it's not just the camera operator, the Steadicam operator, there's the assistant, there's the sound person, and there's also Beta, who couldn't be seen. So there was right behind me, every time he turned, there was there was this whole choo-choo train of people behind him. So every single time he turned, the entire party, the whole choo-choo train had to snake and move right behind him.
No way.
It was hilarious. It was 4 or 5 people trailing him, the choo-choo train. And then Beta grabs him in the end. And again, it's just so that grab is way more impactful, because it's whoa, where'd that come from?
Absolutely.
You don't see him. And if you had cut that, like you said, it would have felt cheaper or more editing, like you faked it. But there it really was the surprise grabs you. And then when you do cut, he falls on the ground. That cuts matter. It's not like I'm anti-cuts at all. I do respect and love those films that have very little, and that have hidden cuts. But sometimes a jarring cut is as effective as a shot that doesn't have cuts. But cuts matter. That's, I think, the bottom line.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Well, we are coming up close to an hour, so yeah, I really respect your time and don't want to take up too much more of your morning. Would you be all right if we just go over a couple more questions and call it a day?
Of course.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, Lem, I'll let you jump in with one of yours.
I'm wondering, should we do the segment one? Or should we leave
sure.
that?
Hey, up to you. Yeah, that's a fun one too.
All right, so I'm going to change it up a little bit now. So on the show, we have a segment where we talk about a public figure or a celebrity and discuss how they do in the Walking Dead universe, so to speak. I thought it'd be great to get your perspective, but with a twist. So my question is, who out of all the cast and the crew, who do you think would actually fare the best in the Walking Dead universe?
Ooh. Real life or as characters?
In real life, yeah.
In real life. There's a difference there.
The actor gets chucked into the universe.
Yeah. I think Paula would do well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
She's a toughie. She's strong. Paula would do well. So when she had to throw something, she had to throw this.
That's right, the canteen.
How are you throwing? She's like, I was the only girl on my the Little League baseball team. I can throw. She's very capable. So I think she'd be she'd survive very well. Gee,
No,
that's a really interesting
loaded question. No, that's awesome, Paola. There you go. That's cool. I like that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you have any more, Isaac, before we...
Yeah. I'm not going to quote anybody directly because otherwise I'll butcher it. But effectively, it's been said that one of the greatest things you can do with your life at some point is to become a teacher, to teach people, to pass on what you've known. In particular, is there anybody that you're mentoring at the moment in directing? Or is there anybody who has been of inspiration to you for this career path?
Very much so on both fronts. I am incredibly indebted to, I've had two mentors in particular. Alan Coulter, who's a fantastic director. He did Boardwalk Empire, a lot of The Sopranos. He was like a real inspiration, and I've learned so much from him. He's just a brilliant filmmaker. And Michael Slovis, who I owe so much to as both a mentor, a teacher, and it's Michael Slovis that I owe so much of my career to. He was actually supposed to direct that episode of The Walking Dead 9/10,
There you go.
but he was unavailable because he took the job as producing director on New Amsterdam and recommended me to Angela. So I owe him. I'm not going to give him my firstborn. She's 25, so I'm not giving her away at this point. But I owe Michael Slovis so much. It's incredible how much he's gone out on a limb for me. So those two mentors have just influenced me as an artist and helped my career tremendously. On the other front, I used to teach filmmaking at NYU. I love teaching.
That's right.
I really love it because I'm so into process. I'm such a geek, I just love talking about this stuff and thinking about it. And I like being around other people who care about this as much as I do. It's just fun, So I have. There are some students I taught in NYU over 10 years ago, like well over 10 years ago, that I'm still in touch with. I've also, before I started actually directing television, I spent 10 years shadowing and watching other directors work.
Yeah.
So it was a very long apprenticeship, a fruitful one, and it taught me very well. But so I do try to encourage other people. And in the past, before COVID, I would frequently have shadows who I would love to, kind of talk to them about my process and find out more about their process. With COVID, it's more difficult. We can't have extra people on set just watching and shadowing, but I do find it really important to give back, and I enjoy it.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's good. That's awesome. So one last question. It's maybe a bit loaded. So feel free to. But so I've been looking at a few other interviews that you've done, and you've talked a bit about really liking symbolism and all those things in storytelling, and just all those sort of creative approaches to how to tell a story. Could you tell us a little bit about, is there anything that you took into The Walking Dead where maybe you added a bit of symbolism or something into an episode? And just what's unique about The Walking Dead in general that you really like from a creative standpoint compared to maybe some other work that you've done?
Oh my God, I could go on and on about what I like about The Walking Dead from a creative standpoint. I think it's just, first of all, you're working with great material, from the source material to Angela, and the writers are terrific. So it's just like, it's such a cumulative thing where 2 + 2 equals way more than 4. So it's just you can just build on other people's brilliance and just add, it just becomes exponential. So I think that's one of the things that I love. And I think that what's nice is that at this point there's a lot of trust between me and the creatives and the writers and Angela, so they do allow me to bring a few things, and again the producers are incredibly encouraging and supportive. So look out for, yes, and I do love a metaphor, like there's no tomorrow. So look out for the dandelion in One More.
There we go.
Okay. Good to know.
So
Nice.
yeah, and the dandelion, I was kind of obsessed with that image. Maybe I'm giving a spoiler, but it's not going to ruin everything.
That's okay.
And I haven't seen the final cut that's airing, because I do my director's cut, then I hand it off in the
Sure.
world. But anyway, in my director's cut, it starts with a dandelion, because for me that was a metaphor of the episode, because it's about the world. A dandelion close up, it looks like COVID with a little drop of blood on it, and with
Right.
it's white with that red, but it also looks like the globe, and it's both beautiful and perfect and also completely fragile
Yeah.
and can be blown in the wind. So I felt like that was what that episode was about, was this kind of oneness that becomes many. It looks like COVID, it looks like the world. And so I was obsessed with this dandelion shot, as the crew can tell, like obsessed. I wanted that dandelion from day one. It was like our dandelions in the season. We ordered a dandelion from Ukraine. It didn't come. It came out. It looked horrible. We got some from Tennessee, but they said that roots. We were growing dandelions, but they were the wrong kind of dandelions. It was like, I was very, very. Actually, at the end of the shoot, the producer did a T-shirt of the dandelion for the crew, because it was like, just because after all this like extensive research to find the perfect dandelion, because I was so like gung ho on this metaphor, I was in my kitchen in Alexandria. Yeah. And I was looking out the window and I saw a dandelion.
No way.
And I called them. I was like, there's a dandelion. But then the other unit, a crew member who I misidentified, I don't want to go on air saying who I misidentified it, but it was a horrible mistake. I thought it was somebody, and I accused them of stepping on my dandelion, because somebody did step on my dandelion. Anyway, the dandelion saga, and Matthew Goodwin, my first AD, he was just like, just when you thought 2020 couldn't get worse, like, the dandelion was crushed. But we found another dandelion, and the Greens Department went and dug it up and brought it to us and transported it like it was the most precious cargo in the whole world. And you know, how many people are really going to actually notice the dandelion, care about the dandelion, even understand that the dandelion is everything, is a symbol of the entire episode and the world and COVID and everything? Probably just me, but somehow, you know, that maybe on a subliminal level, people feel it.
Yeah.
And for all I know, they cut out the dandelion in the edit. After all that stress.
If they made a T-shirt, surely they can't have.
We'll spread your legend.
Yes, exactly. And fingers crossed, I think I ended with a piece of dandelion, but we'll see how that landed. The episode was very long in the edit, so they were forced to cut a lot of stuff out. Sure. So unfortunately, so I don't know what the final show is at this point. But yes, watch for the dandelion.
Will do, definitely. Hopefully there's an extended version even on the Blu-ray. They do that quite a lot. So yeah, when we see a dandelion, we definitely won't underestimate that. That's awesome. I'm glad you said that. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. We really appreciate your time and of course all the work that you've put into the show.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
It had a big impact on us, just enjoying the show and the way it speaks to humanity and all these things that just play a part in our lives. So everything that you've contributed to that, thank you so much, and we really appreciate that.
Exclusive.
That was cool.
There we go. Man, I'm so glad you said that thing about the dandelion. Hey, I just love seeing something and it just gives you that much more appreciation for it. Hey, and knowing, they looked all around the country to find this dandelion and that happened. So that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Just imagine though, like talk about, we're on a strict time schedule and all of this. We have to get the rest of the thing in like day by day as they can't find the dandelion, like, hair starting to get a bit frizzy, a bit more deranged, have to get this thing and then they might not even use the shot. So
man.
I will cry if they don't use it. If I see no dandelions, I'm rioting.
Yeah.
I want to see dandelion.
Oh man. And how do you even transport it? Like she was saying, they were so careful with it.
Dig the dirt out underneath it and...
But, like, you can't move it too quickly. You've got to be, like, slow motion.
Maybe like a little... You know those cake domes that you put over a cake? Modified ones?
Yeah. Well, like, what is it, Beauty and the Beast or whatever?
That's what I was thinking.
Flowers
That's it.
Okay. Yeah, all right. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. A couple of armed guards around.
A few armed guards, walkers, so they know it'll mess with it. That's the worst, like, ugliest looking makeup that Greg Nicotero has come up with, and just make them the guards. Man, all right, I'm just catching my breath, but what do you guys think of that? What are some takeaways?
I'm still processing all of it, but she was really cool to talk to.
So
she was great.
cool.
Chill, yeah.
Yeah, I think the one is, and I think I was initially like, I don't want to ask this question because I was the same as you. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know what it was called, so I thought, is it honor or is it wanna?
Oh, sorry, because I put it in the text chat, and yeah, you read it as like owner. It's like, what's that? I should have put the number one in ER or something.
I figured it. I heard her say it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it's called.
Okay.
Something played across my mind. I didn't want to ask because I might have looked stupid. Could you not have just used a drone for that entire shot to fly into the thing without having to
Yeah, I mean, in theory, yes.
lose audio, maybe?
Yeah, I guess you can always overdub that. No, it's a fair point. You'd have to be very, very controlled and hope there's no wind gusts or anything. I think the main reason, well, they were still shooting on film at that point is probably a big thing. But yeah, you can obviously get really good quality drones with high quality video, but I don't know if that would be a consideration. Yeah. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, I'm sure the technology, if it's not already there, will get there pretty soon where that's the standard. I guess they have to be quieter as well, so it's not too noisy.
So what are we looking out for in this? So the dandelion.
The dandelion. She said just some improvised stuff of
Negan.
Negan and Lucille.
Yeah,
Okay.
so... not that that'll, I don't know if that'll necessarily stand out. We'll go this scene, but at least that's cool to know that they took a bit of it and just had their own chemistry going on.
Father Gabriel, something he's got an episode
Yeah.
where he shines.
We did know that already. I know you don't follow too much of the social media stuff, but the Princess and Gabriel episodes and stuff has already been sort of released.
Like, what's going down?
As in what the episode's going to be about, roughly. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not released, yeah.
Oh, dear.
I was starting to sweat a little bit there. I'm like, what?
Kept it from
I
us.
said that, yeah, bad wording. Okay, there we go. Oh, man, but... okay, so again,
job.
to clarify, it's past midnight here. It's been a long day. Isaac and I have been shooting a Spud Shed commercial with the one and only Tony Gallardi. So it's been a long, intense day, but a good day.
I almost asked him what weapon of choice he would have had.
I was about to
almost
say.
did. His fists, probably. I don't know.
It's got to be fists and potatoes. Yeah. Yeah, look, I can't think of too much right now, to be honest. I'm very tired. But is there any last thoughts that you guys had that you'd like to talk about? Actually, I've got one thing, but after you guys.
I think just the wonders in general. I think that was really cool to know that it went like that's all one shot going into.
Oh yeah.
What do you call it? The windmill.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that, but yeah, it was fantastic, and how that plays a pivotal role in how the story is conveyed. That was brilliant.
And there's the more like you're looking out for it and you watch it, you notice more of them. But there's still some like the Negan first encounter with Beta and stuff like that. Like that, I didn't consciously realize it was a wonder, but then as soon as she said that, you go, oh, of course. Like that's why that scene had that sort of flow to it. So, but yeah, if you go back and watch, especially that one 10:15 where you've got that windmill shot. There's another one with Dan Fogler on the radio going, oh, everyone's counting on me, and you follow the characters walking around, and there's just so many moving pieces. So it definitely, the more you watch it, the more impressive it gets. I find at least. Yeah.
I found it rather comical that what I had suspected was true regarding that fight scene before Beta jumping out.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you see the camera going like round following, I think it was Daryl or somebody fighting. Who was it?
Wait, which scene are you talking about?
I think this is in that, forget the episode, but this is, they're on this open road fighting a whole bunch of whisperers, I believe. And the camera is following one character. I thought it was Daryl.
Yeah.
And it's like, as he's going around, it's following him. And because it does a full 360 circle around him as he's fighting different people.
I'm not picturing the scene, to be honest, but I'm sure.
She was saying that they're doing the little choo-choo train behind each other, everyone behind the
So that
camera.
was Negan when he first encountered the Whisperers, is what she was talking about. And the little pig, and bashing a few walkers, and then Beta reaches and grabs him and pulls him sort of out of the frame.
Okay,
Or
I will
chucks him in.
revisit that scene, but
Yeah,
same sort
sure.
of premise.
Yeah,
Anytime
so
they do a full
so-
circle, you just can imagine everyone like shuffling behind the camera, like left and right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. We need more behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
They have done some more behind the scenes apparently for these COVID episodes, but then AMC have gone and put it on AMC Plus, which is only available in America. They're getting closer. So to get AMC Plus, you can link it with your Amazon subscription or Apple TV, which we have those here. So they just need to just take that one extra step and make it available here because the stuff's already in place.
Use a VPN, mate.
But you have to have a US credit card as well to sign up for it. I did look into options because I'm happy to pay for it and everything, but yeah, we'll get it on DVD at least. One last thing. This isn't necessarily to do with something she was talking about, but just in the research leading up to this episode, watching 9:15, I was looking more for symbolism and imagery and stuff like that, and there are a few things I read as well in I've lost a bit of paper. There we go, thank you. Where is it? Oh, maybe it's there we go. Okay, so we've got they talked about it in the audio commentary as well. I didn't spoil all these things myself, but the candy apples, there's Enid and Alden grab a candy apple, which is a spike with a thing on the top that Enid's holding, which they said was very intentional apparently from the script stage even. So that, small things, but the movie they're watching, the cartoon Quackadoodle-Doo, has got like the duck and whatever fighting, and the guy like rips the other guy's face off and like wears it. So it's like, oh yeah, you can see all these things. And apparently the Declaration of Independence, like the position they were all standing in, apparently they like matched that up with where the characters were standing for signing the charter as well. So a few little things like that I thought were cool. And you hear about these episodes having only 8 days to film and stuff, and so you kind of imagine that it's just, we'll just put something together and that'll have to do. But like to be able to go back and you see all these things that were intentionally put in there, it blows my mind. I really like it.
I got to say, that's something that has been incredible for me to learn, because I am a complete newbie in this sort of arena. Like video, all that sort of stuff, script writing, I have no idea. So hearing all this behind the scenes stuff is just fascinating, and it makes me really appreciate it so much more when you hear how much work just goes into it, into just one episode.
100%.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Now, if you haven't plugged in on turnsounds.com, that's our new... It's kind of a replacement for Patreon, essentially.
It's an upgrade, rather, for us.
It's an upgrade, yeah. It's an upgrade for us. It's an upgrade for you. Yeah. Patreon don't take a chunk of our money, and it's an upgrade for you. Yeah.
I don't know why I just
somehow, one way or another. But yeah, it definitely means a lot if you enjoy the show and you feel like flicking us $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 to just to support the costs and the work that goes into it. We definitely appreciate that, because we do this show for fun because we enjoy putting it out. But if you guys are enjoying it and feel like you would like to show your appreciation, that would be something very much appreciated, because we put a bit of money into the microphones and the uploading of stuff. We have to pay a subscription and all that. So that's all there. But yeah, we like to give you some bonus stuff as well. So last episode we just talked for another 15 minutes or so at the end, which ended up being quite an interesting conversation. So that was a good one. But for this one, because it's midnight, we recorded a bit at the start so we wouldn't have to go too late here. So if you go to turnsounds.com and click on plug in and and sign up for that, then you can go back to this episode and have a listen to the start. And there's a bit of extra stuff there while we were just casually chatting, getting things set up and having a bit of fun. So there we go. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Thanks again to Laura for coming on. And I've been your host, Ben.
I'm still Isaac.
I'm always Liam.
Always. I like it.
And we
I
are
never
Negan.
know how to follow that. I'm always really awkward. But thanks so much for listening, guys, and just keep walking.